We're going to be tying a Rhode Island classic, the raised fly, created by Ray Bondro. Here's the fly here. You can see it there. And the fly consists of an eagle claw hook in size 1 or 1/0. It's there. We're going to be using for materials, we're going to be using natural hairs, white bucktail, yellow bucktail, olive, peacock herl, and Bill's body braid, which is a silver mylar tinsel that lays flat on the hook. And what we're going to do here is we're going to start our fly. You can use mono thread or flat wax nylon, whatever you prefer to tie with, but we're going to go ahead and start our fly here. We're going to tie our thread in, and we're going to advance the thread back to the bend in the hook, just above the hook bar. We're going to leave our thread hanging there. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a small piece of the Bill's body braid, the mylar tinsel that's flat here, and we're going to tie it in right at the thread point here above the barb. Okay. And leave your excess material hanging off the back. And what I like to do is, after you tie that in, go ahead and advance your thread to the eye of the hook. Leave it there, and we're going to either hand palmer this material to the front of the hook, or if you have a rotary vise, you can wrap it and advance the material towards the eye of the hook as you're doing so. Once you get to this point here, try to leave a small gap between the end of the material and the eye of the hook so you can tie your hair in. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap the thread around the body braid and capture it, and do that about 3 or 4 times to assure that you grab the material and it doesn't come unraveled. At this point here, go ahead and trim the excess material nice and close to the hook. Save it because it's still good for another fly. And go ahead and put a few secure wraps over the thread, over the material rather, to make sure it doesn't come unwound. And our body is done. We're going to grab our white bucktail, and we're going to take a fairly decent clump off the bucktail here. What we're going to do is come in nice and close here to the hide and take about 30 strands of white.
Chris, everything should be fine with rope, right?
And we're going to clean the bucktail out. I like to leave again, fairly. You want the fly to be sparse, so leave a little less than more. Less is more in this case. So, and I like to have about a shank and a half length from the head back to give you an idea of proportion. I like it to sit right on the vise and about halfway back. I'm going to go ahead and trim that nice and even, and go ahead and tie that in. Couple of loose wraps so the hair doesn't flare on you, and then go ahead and crank it down. It should sit on the hook kind of on an angle. You'll see it, you'll know when you got it there, and it'll look good. We're going to tie some flash in, which I did forget to mention. I like to use about 2 or 3 strands of crystal flash. And what I do is I leave the full length. I go ahead and I split the material so it's about even, and I go ahead and cut that. And then I take all 4 strands I'm left with and I wrap them around the thread, and then I bring them up to the material and tie that in right on top, leaving it extending back. Go ahead here now, and we're going to take our yellow bucktail. We're going to use just a few strands, maybe 10 strands of yellow, just to add some accent to the fly. I usually clean it out after I take a little more than I need, and then I clean it out. And we're going to make that extend just short of where the white falls, so you don't want it to extend past the white, you want it to be slightly in front of it. We're going to go ahead and tie that in. Now we're going to take our olive bucktail, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take off a little bit more than the yellow, and we're going to tie that right up on top of the yellow there. cut our ends, make them nice and even, and go ahead and tie that in right on top of the yellow. Before I do anything else, I like to come in on the fly and take a look at it, make sure everything's even, and I use my thumb and I press down on the material gently to distribute the hair evenly around the shank of the hook. And what you essentially should end up with is white, yellow, and a nice cloak of olive that covers the yellow and white evenly. So it kind of gives it a nice, slender baitfish appearance in the water. Before we finish the fly, what we're going to do is we're going to take about 4 or 5 strands of peacock herl, and that you want to extend just beyond the hair. It's going to be the longest part of your fly. And we're going to go ahead and cut the dead ends off, use the natural ends, and tie that in right on top of the olive. Now before proceeding to finish our fly here, what you'd like to do is take the scissors and naturally not on the sharp side, but on the outside edge of the scissors, take the peacock herl you just tied in, and while you're holding the peacock herl, put the scissors underneath it and apply some pressure with your index finger and gently slide it back. Carefully in doing so that you don't break the peacock herl, and it will create a nice concave appearance to the peacock herl, and it fits nice on the fly. Now we're going to go ahead and finish our fly. I use a whip finisher. Some people like to use their hands, but in this case I'm going to use the whip finisher, and we'll go ahead and finish the fly. Trim our thread nice and close to the head, and we're going to apply some head cement. I like to use this hard as hell because it comes with a little brush applicator, and it's got a nice watery consistency to it, that sinks through the threads nice and gets down to the hair and kind of keeps everybody home in place. And that'll do it. That's your raised fly. Fantastic local pattern designed to imitate a silverside or small baitfish in the water. There it is.